All right. Okay. Say, Leilani, how do you want to get started?
Let's I'll do an intro.
Okay.
I'll intro all the speakers and kind of set up the session this morning.
Okay. I'll just follow your lead.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
I'll just MC in between each.
Okay. Great.
So we have so it's 10 o'clock right on the dot right now. Um, so let's get started.
Hi, good morning. I'm Kristen, the captioner. Could somebody assign me as to be the closed captioner?
Will, can you do that?
Um, Kristen, if it would help, I can send you. I have a draft of my remarks. If that would help, I don't know if it does. I could send that to you.
I think I'm probably okay to just, I have sort of an outline of the session.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm going to keep up with you the best I can. Thank you so much for offering that, though. That's very kind.
All right. No problem. Yeah.
All right, let's do a little bit of a roll call. Good morning, everybody. I think our speakers are all here. Anthony Nacella, Nancy Berrickman, and Gina Alfred, and Provost Clifton Sanders will be speaking with us today. Do we have all our speakers? If you could unmute and just say yay.
I'm here.
Hey, Nancy. Yay. All right. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. I'm Leilani Kinney. I'm Chief Diversity Officer, and this session is called Transformative Tension, a hip hop pedagogy. I have the honor of introducing four really central folks who are helping to birth and coordinate the JEDI Hub. That's the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Hub for Social Transformation. So it's a collaborative effort between staff, faculty, all of the cabinet members' offices also are involved. In as far as JEDI 4ST also is part of the two-pronged approach to transformation at the college. We have the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Council for Transformation that's still forming up and involves administrative processes and kind of doing a very thorough job at looking at policy, looking at monitoring and metrics, looking at what kind of conversations we're having at the college, both big like today and also small conversations throughout the year. And we're also looking at transformative experiences, which is professional development and what's happening kind of with new trainings and things. So we have a little bit of representation of, I would say, highlights from JEDI 4ST that we'll be talking today. I wanted to start the session off because I'm a big nerd with a book, a quote from a book called Hip Hop and Dismantling the School to Prison Pipeline. Edited by Anthony J. Nocella, who's here on the call today, as well as Daniel White Hodge, Don C. Sawyer, and Ahmad R. Washington. I wanted to read this quote just from the foreword to set up today's talk. The foreword is by H.A. Jabbar Odokan L. And it reads like this. Through great pressure, pain, and stress, the greatest of objects are produced. Diamonds, gems, crystals, and numerous metals are natural materials that have to be dug deeply, mined from the earth. They are then cleaned, polished, and put to use in a variety of ways. Some are used simply for symbolic display, such as diamonds, while others serve to facilitate high technical procedures, such as coltan in cell phones. It is from the same great pressure of the natural world that we live in that musical genres such as the blues, jazz, and hip hop culture have come to life. And yes, I said culture and not just music. Hip hop is more than just music, beats, and rhymes. Hip hop is a cultural and social phenomenon. Popular hip hop artist Drizzy Drake, in his 2013 hit song, Started from the Bottom, said, "Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team here." Hip hop music started from the bottom and now it's here, still in existence, and at the very top of the music industry globally. It was created in one of the most amazing, treacherous, and worldly known cities, New York City. Hip hop was created by the group or race of people that are considered the lowest class and the least respected and have the least material resources. Hip hop was used, like medicine, to remedy the ills of a racist and oppressive society, to help create a feeling of joy opposite to the anxiety, pain, and stress endured as a Black person in America. Um, just wanted to read that and kind of frame up the work that the Jedi 4ST Hub is positioned to do, which is transformative community empowerment. And without kind of further ado, I wanted to turn to our first kind of mini keynote speaker, who is Provost Sanders, who's going to give us a little bit of a inspirational and instructive talk on hip hop and what that means at Salt Lake Community College. So thank you, Clifton.
Thank you, Dr. Kenny, Leilani, and especially thank you for reading that excerpt before. That really kind of energizes me to dive into my remarks. So again, thank you. Okay, so like many in the SLCC community, I've worked here starting as faculty for a long time, since 1993. And in as much as I've spent my entire education and professional career in communities and situations where folks like me are not in the majority, negotiating cultural differences and divides has never been an option. And often it has functioned more like a surtax, requiring time and energy and resources that I would want to devote to professional and technical work. All the time, I contemplate what is the give and take in understanding and seeking to be understood on my own terms? What, if any, is the connection between the ethnic or cultural majority's stated intent to be welcoming to all and my and others in the global majority's sense of belonging, particularly at Salt Lake Community College? Is or should there be evidence that my and my global majority coworkers' sustained presence at SLCC has made transformative impacts upon our community and culture in ways that advance justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion? Well, since I've been provost since about 2014, I've tried to promote in academic affairs and elsewhere an understanding of importance of community and community building. Sometimes I've done it by circulating slogans, and in my speech I use the term memes, but it's probably more earworms than anything else. But let me give you an example of what I mean by what I've tried to circulate. Back in 2014, when I first started as interim provost, I coined the term professionals in community to emphasize that traditional notions of academic communities that restrict themselves, their understanding to departments and disciplines, are not rich enough to meet the needs of the students we serve. Students travel throughout the college, and particularly community colleges. They travel throughout college neighborhoods to achieve their goals. Therefore, how should we seek to form authentic community narratives among ourselves as professionals in community to help students make better sense of their holistic experience and for us to cope with our own complexity in sane ways? I also started the slogan, and it actually, got traction, that faculty spend more time with students than any other entity at SLCC. And I did this not to create any divisions between, say, academic affairs or any other part of the college, but rather to shine a light on the critical grassroots nature, for better or worse, of the learning environment and the value and morality of the relational aspects of teaching and learning. And really, the student demographic and cultural landscape of SLCC has changed dramatically over the past 10 years. I mean, imagine what it was like when I came in 1993. You know, there's been radical changes, particularly since the 2002 Olympics and SLCC's demographic ethnic composition. I think someone mentioned, I think Daniel Susi mentioned in the earlier session that we're at, say, 30%, about 31% non-white peoples represented at SLCC. And then there are also there are other cultural changes um, as well. And so this is a radical change, but like almost every other higher education institution in America, let alone Utah, our faculty and administrative demographic change lags far behind. More and those are structural issues in and of themselves that impact all of education and us particularly. Moreover, decades of social change, equity, diversity, and inclusivity experiments have produced a lot of scholarship, but with a few notable exceptions, fail to overcome the inertia and intransigence of histories, traditions, and legacies that, try as they might, or otherwise, are, as a one SLCC colleague correctly pointed out to me, these things often in complex situations merely operate within systems that are really excellent at maintaining the status quo. So, in other words, over the history, I mean, social justice is not a new term, particularly in higher education. I mean, I've been involved or aware one way or another of social justice ethos, praxis, attempts for 50 years in one way or another. So, from a historical perspective, a lot of things have been tried. Very few things have stuck, and the structural part of it is that there always seem to either reify or emerge countervailing forces that, despite the intent of things to drive change, um, and end up preserving the paradigm, the paradigm that needs to overchange. That's just reality. And I would say, with all of the hopeful things that we saw in the opening session this morning, and there's some truly outstanding things, we have to be cautious and be vigilant that we don't celebrate too much. We can applaud those things, we can laud the hope, but history tells us that we have to stay on watch and continue to encourage the good and resist those countervailing forces. And so what does that mean? Well, another way of saying it is is historically we get cold feet in taking and managing risks associated with radical change. And given recent demands for social justice and transformation, I'm suggesting that we need a different institutional pedagogy, in quotes, with a different emphasis upon community and community engagement and openness to other standpoints. And I would also contend that under the circumstances, this actually is not risky at all, given given our stressed and uncertain times. So one of my more recent slogans, which I hope is on its way to becoming at least an earworm, is that it should be Salt Lake Community College's goal to become the cherished possession of the communities we serve. To me, this means that it is on us to engage, understand, and transform in ways that communities that send their students to us, that these communities cherish us, that they eventually trust us, advocate for us, and hold us accountable for how we value and develop what they value, especially their students who are their future. I believe that a promising new pedagogy for us to adopt and to hope to attain this comes from the phenomenon of hip hop. Originating in marginalized Black and Brown communities, hip hop culture emerges performance, commentary, intellectual thought, social capital, and actions that enables communities to be seen, heard, and respected on their terms, according to their self-understanding, and that empowers communities to reject labeling and stereotyping that is deemed demeaning or not in step with emergent community sensibilities. Ideally, hip hop seeks to cultivate intrinsic dignity and self worth and resists hegemonic forces that in themselves hypocritically resist openness to learning, dialogue, good faith practice, transformation, and seeking justice. That's a nice way of saying the past 50 years of experiments have these are the countervailing stuff. Hip hop culture asserts creativity, genius, art, and innovation is worthy of notice beyond the community and into the larger world. So, as I see it, it is necessary for Salt Lake Community College to embrace that hip hop ethos and pedagogy, as I've portrayed it, is a dynamic, evolving process that is relentlessly community centric, dignity promoting, and unceasingly focused upon liberation and justice. If we are serious about our SLCC value of community, where we say that we seek to strengthen communities through the students we serve, a hip hop perspective is essential to our path of transformation because we can't achieve that goal without embracing change, real and deep change ourselves. And so it's essential to our path of transformation and becoming a cherished possession of the communities that we serve, and that their and our students um, asp- that we aspire to empower. And so those are my comments, and I'll stop now. And I thank you so much for giving me a little time to gab. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Provost Sanders, for setting us up with that in-depth look at kind of why at Salt Lake Community College we need to continue to talk about structural inequity and what that means, and framing up kind of all of the data that was presented in the beginning of the morning with kind of a deeper theoretical and practical knowledge of what it means to change those data sets that are indeed indicators that there is oppression going on, that there is inequity, that there is a lack of investment and a lack of elevating pedagogies that will truly affect student learning and student outcomes. So thank you for that. I want to also kind of just read our JEDI 4ST purpose statement. So JEDI 4ST was founded in the fall of 2020 and is the Interdisciplinary Research Center at SLIC, which is housed in the Chief Diversity Office. Its mission is liberatory social transformation with a goal of ending oppression, inequity, exclusion, and injustice. Social transformation is change in all aspects of society, including the people, the institutions, the systems, the industries, and communities, rather than the narrow scope of social change movements that focuses on one or two aspects of society. Our approach is grounded in Paulo Freire's concept of praxis with critical pedagogy. We interweave theory and practice. The JEDI 4ST program has two streams: scholarship, which is theory, which includes research projects and publications and educational forums, and community collaborations, which is praxis, which supports community initiatives and activist organizations that promote justice, equity, and inclusion for disadvantaged and oppressed populations. So with that, we want to introduce Dr. Anthony Nocella, professor at criminal justice. If you could unmute and let us see you, and so that folks can kind of be introduced.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Can you hear me, Leilani?
Yeah.
Wonderful. I would like to share, if I can, a slide, and that will take a second. But then I just want to kind of visual, what we're talking about. And then it will just kind of show people what I'm talking about. And you can take pictures. I'll send it to you later. but I wanted to have a conversation where it begins and we can step off of. How I'm going to,
Can you
how
hit
do
share
I,
screen? Is it a green button on the bottom?
okay, let me, yep, share screen, and I'm going to right now. Okay, sharing, and I'm just gonna go into, okay, so do you see that, Leilani?
Yep, yep, yep.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm just going to take you through as Clifton was speaking about and wrote a amazing with his son Nate uh, um, the forward to a current book that will be coming out that I co-edited on hip hop activism, which would be the first book on hip hop activism. Hip hop is the essential youth culture of the world right now. It's the fastest growing economic system and industry in the United States, behind the oil and gas industry located in Houston, as well as the prison industrial complex or the criminal justice system, right? So, but the interesting thing about hip hop is that it fostered it with nothing, no money, in the Bronx in New York City by youth of color, specifically Black youth. And so now, in one generation, it took a number of youth out of projects and economically disadvantaged communities to be financially stable. But while they got to the same goal, like Bill Gates, et cetera, the journey was different. And I think that needs to continuously to be discussed. If we respect other people's journeys, right? It doesn't mean that we have to have different goals, but we have to respect people's different journeys. So let us begin. Jedi, Dr. Leilani Kinney kind of talked about the justice, equity, diversity, inclusion for social justice, and we spoke about it a little bit. So I won't speak too much about it, but as hip hop, we want to be bolsterous. We want to be promoting that we're the best, and that's what hip hop always does. And I was just interviewed recently, and somebody says, "What is hip hop, and how do you walk and how do you swag?" Well, you promote yourself and you have self-confidence. And I think one major thing about hip hop is that they believe in themselves, to the extent that we have a racially disproportionate group of Black youth throughout the United States in special ed in public schools. And why is that? A lot of research from Cultural Foundations of Education, Critical Pedagogy, Education Policy, UCLA, Stanford, NYU, University of Wisconsin-Madison have all noted that there's a racial disparity because there's a cultural disconnect between the majority of teachers, which come from the white identity, specifically from the white women from the suburbs, middle class suburbs. There's nothing wrong with that, but we do need to diversify, just like in Salt Lake Community College and in the world, the faculty, staff, and administration, and how it reflects to the student body. And we had a brilliant, wonderful presentation talking about how art and media need to also reflect that at Salt Lake Community College. And I thank the presenter on that note. So I'm just going to quickly go over, these are some of the books that I co-edited and was honored to be part of. The last one, Rebel Music, was bringing hip hop and punk together. So doing something with nothing, that is hip hop, right? Doing a lot with and making a lot is not hip hop. So being creative and thinking outside the box, which Jeff Ayers really noted and promoted throughout 360 so far, is being innovative, meaning looking outside the box, saying things that and thinking differently. Provost Sanders also noted that at the very beginning of this presentation. We've got to look, and that is not radical, it's just common sense. We've got to start looking outside the box and find our solutions in that aspect. So I'll be talking a little bit about know where you come from. Tension is good. It is us and the system transformation. Do not silence the story, which I've already kind of spoke about. Don't fall for the gap, which is kind of the journey. And then we are the best, and shout outs. So know where we come from. Transformative education is the term fostered out of the work from women of color who have been influenced by critical pedagogy, a field founded by one of the great educational theorists, Paulo Freire. So I'll move on to the process of social change really quickly, and I don't want to take too much time. We first have to look at the social problem, and then we move into willfully ignoring it. Well, I don't want to address it, kind of like, attitude. I'm not here yet. And then resisting change. Not everybody is there. Stigmatized change, calling somebody less than, fostering eugenics, saying that they are not great leaders because they're too emotional, and then repressing them, framing them, incarcerating them, such as Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, arresting them like Rosa Parks, creating the tension. That's where we are today. 360 last year was saying, hi, everyone, we want to be promoting equity, justice, and diversity. But now we're talking about it, working with it, and we feel sometimes uncomfortable at meetings, committees, discussions on Zoom, etc. Embrace that tension. And I'll be speaking about that later. And then finally, we'll be discussing social change. And then finally, down the road, hopefully social transformation. So this is a two characters from Japanese, saying one represents danger and then one represents opportunity. And we need to look at conflict and crisis as opportunity, not just as danger. So it's about us and the system. Tupac and Biggie, and I'm just going to move through this really quickly. And then Leilani, you can interrupt me if I'm running too long. I do apologize if I am. So hugging on my mama from a jail cell, and who you think elementary. I'd see the penitentiary one day, run from the police. That's right. Tupac and Dear Mama, the most profound intellectual in hip hop, without a doubt, is Tupac and Biggie. I would say the greatest lyricist in hip hop ever is Tupac. And I would say that most people would say the same. Why is his lyrics so brilliant? Why did everybody want to gravitate him? Because he's resonating, his words resonate with so many other youth, that specifically of color, because even in elementary, they know that they'll most likely be in penitentiaries. 1 out of 3 Black men before they die or get killed will be incarcerated, right? That is profound. 1 out of 9 Black men will go to college, and we need to flip that script. And I think Salt Lake Community College wants to do it, and will do it. Right. Also, we have an amazing prison education program, one of the largest and profound prison education programs in the country. So we're already steps and giant leaps above everybody. So this, again, Biggie said this in one of his most brilliant songs ever. Yeah, this album is dedicated. He could have dedicated it to kitties, cats, dogs, his uncle, his brother, but no, he dedicated it to 2 groups of people. And it's very, very important to know these 2 groups of people. To all the teachers that never told me I'd never amount to anything, just like Malcolm X, he wanted to be a lawyer. And 6 months later, he left school because his teacher said very prolifically and articulately, without a hiccup in the teacher's, speech, they said, no Negro will ever be a lawyer, right? And 6 months later, Malcolm X leaves college, gets involved in pimping and hustling, living on the streets, and then finally turns into one of the most brilliant, amazing leaders in human history, right? On US stamps, right? So we need to understand these individuals are not always embraced by teachers. It doesn't mean that we've got to be hip hop like the Freedom Riders, but we've got to understand, got to respect and acknowledge where they're coming from, the journey. Right? So recognize oppression, not less than. Marginalized people, not minorities, right? Minorities comes from a term of less than, right? We need to understand the words we use, and we need to be articulate from it because we're academics. Respect, acknowledge other stories, meaning support cultural relevant pedagogy, not fake the funk. Do not strive to support cultural competence. I will never be competent in being a woman. I'll never be competent in being a Black woman. I'll never be competent in a person with physical disabilities. I'll never be competent in many things, and that's fine, right? Know your place and know your lane, right? Having limitations is not a bad thing. And the ends do not justify the means. We all in the world have different experiences and journeys, develop different stories. We thus have to respect different journeys while promoting one goal, which is graduation. To respect different journeys, to respect, yes, I said it, diversity. To the student's story does not start with Salt Lake Community College. We just are honored to be part and continuing the journey with the students, right? So we are the best and love our haters, right? And that's kind of a hip hop thing, right? Be bolsterous and promote. We are accessible college, unlike many. We have a great mission, value, and vision. We are affordable, right? I can sleep at night and know my students are not going into as much debt, leaps and bounds. We have the best students, staff, administrators, faculty. We don't have some of the best. We have the best, and we've got to believe in ourselves. We have the greatest minds at this institution. We've got to challenge that. We are grassroots and we are part of the community, not above the community. And I would like to kind of close with Lupe Fiasco. 1 in the air for the people that aren't here, 2 in the air for the fathers that there, 3 in the air for the kids in the ghetto, 4 for the kids that don't want to be there, none for the end trying to hold them back, 5 in the air for the teachers that not scared. I'm hoping that we're not scared and creating tension. I'm being part of tension. A shout out to everybody at Salt Lake Community College, staff, administrators that are not scared in taking this leap with us for equity, justice, inclusion, and diversity. Thank you so much for having a beautiful leaders such as Clifton. Thank you so much. I am honored and I love everybody I work with. So thanks so much for everybody being here.
And we love you, Anthony. Thank you for always bringing your passion and your intellect and your actions, especially. I wanted to, Devin Cantwell had a comment, Django Paris's work on culturally sustaining pedagogy, which I also have recently come across as far as there can be relevancy, but do classrooms sustain a safe environment for multiple cultures? And I think with that, we wanted to kind of just continue to thread thinking about tension as productive, tension as transformative. So instead of running away from tension, run towards it, sit with it, be with it, kind of feel it, and don't let it allow you to react in unconscious ways. Bring that to consciousness and bring that out. That's what music and the arts is here for. And that's why with Jedi 4ST, we center on justice through arts and justice through poetry, justice through musical genres that speak about these issues, social issues, in ways that our normal conversation and discourse can't. It elevates it. So thank you, Anthony, for giving us a bit of a sketch into hip hop pedagogy. I wanted to also quote again from this same book about the school to prison pipeline before we pivot to Gina Alfred, who's going to talk about the Utah reintegration program, as well as some of the Jedi certificate train the trainer work that we're doing in the hub. No youth in prison. The goal is to dismantle the school to prison pipeline. So youth are not incarcerated, criminalized, or policed. The goal is to end the oppression towards youth, specifically LGBTQ youth, youth of color, youth with disabilities, and youth that are economically disadvantaged, who are targeted and affected most by the school to prison pipeline, which is a set of interlocking policies. We see it right here in Salt Lake County with our disparities in our prison population, which, like Anthony was saying, do the opposite of what we were talking about in the first session today. So we have Pacific Islanders represented at twice the rate in the prison as they are on the streets or in population. So the final goal is to increase the graduation rate of all youth, especially the 4 youth group mentioned above, that are targeted and most vulnerable. So that's youth of color, youth with disabilities, youth with who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, who are affected most by policies that were created in the 1990s and 2000s during the war on drugs. So without further ado, let's ask Gina Alfred to kind of talk us through one of the highlight programs in the Jedi 4ST Hub, which is the Utah Reintegration Program, which wraps around the prison education program and provides safe space for formerly incarcerated students and community members to learn more about the community college opportunities here and to get the support they need as they transition back into society after having paid their debt.
Thanks, Dr. K. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, this morning. I'm going to actually share my screen if that's all right. And I have a really quick presentation, PowerPoint. Is it sharing? Oh, snap. Okay, so this is what we're doing in the Jedi Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Hub at South City. We're actually looking at how do we change some of the culture, so to speak, that is plaguing the college, the community, and the country, right? So we are going to pilot this program. It is called the U of U Executive Leading with Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Certificate. So the U of U, University of Utah, they have this certificate that's about 12 weeks in length, and it has about 7 courses that participants can become certified in. And the goal is to develop a in-house curriculum for Salt Lake Community College with a train the trainer model. So basically what we are going to do, this is again coming from our Salt Lake Community College Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Council for Transformation. And we're calling this cohort Generation 1. And so you see on the screen participants that had agreed to take the time to do the certificate. Once we are done with the certificate, we will again come together and develop a curriculum that can be used in-house for Salt Lake Community College. We'll develop the framework for the certificate, but we'll also allow not the certificate, but the framework for the training itself, but we'll also allow it to be fluid based on departments. So we'll train it first, and then we would allow other departments, members, et cetera, to take it back to their department, retweak it as needed for people in their departments, right? Because you may have some people that are truly embracing justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and so they're ready to hit the ground running. And you may have some people that will challenge and maybe push back or not, be so enthusiastic to get on board. We'll allow you to tweak that and baby step it if need be for those individuals to kind of help give them the encouragement and motivation needed to get on board. And the goal is to spread this out throughout the entire college. So you see we have a variety of people on this in this first cohort. We have staff, we have faculty, we have members from the Disability Resource Center, we have, people from the LGBTQ plus community, et cetera, because the goal intentionally was not for myself and maybe 2 or 3 other people to develop a curriculum and speak on behalf of certain communities, but rather to invite those communities together to make this a collaborative act. So the Leading with Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion certificate, again, is 12 weeks in length, and it covers the following 7 courses. As you can see here on your screen. The one thing that we will add to the curriculum once we are complete with the certificate is a justice component, right? Because as KRS-One said, and we talk about hip hop and pedagogy, you cannot have equity, diversity, and inclusion without justice, right? Justice is the prelude to equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we will have certifications in all 7 of these areas, and then we, again, will come back and develop a curriculum. So I kind of was looking at like a CIA framework, a model, Central Intelligence Agency, and they're tasked with gathering certain information regarding security, right? Intelligence and security. This particular cohort, we're going to be tasked with gathering, processing, and analyzing equity, diversity, and inclusion practices within the college by using a critical theory praxis, Why? Because we want to make sure that our orthodoxy, what we think and what we believe, is matching our orthopraxy, what we are actually saying, or vice versa, right? So we want to make sure that we're, in the words of Tia Brown McNair, we're walking the talk. We're not just giving you lip service, but we are actually going to do something and put into practice something that is truly transformative. We want to also communicate clearly that equality is not equity. Those are two very distinct words. And just because you treat a person equally doesn't necessarily mean you're treating them equitably. So we want to make sure that people understand the distinct difference between those two words. We want to also communicate the fact that diversity is inevitable. It's everywhere. I mean, if you can't look around and see diversity, then you living under a rock, right? So we want to make sure that, again, people are embracing the inevitableness of diversity, right? And lastly, we want to also communicate inclusion is not oppressive. So in order for us to say we are an inclusive community college, we have to get to the point where we can allow people to be who they are. If you have students that may like to express themselves, or staff or faculty, in the form of cussing, hey, let them do them. If you have somebody that want to come to class, you know, I don't know, with tattered up clothes or whatever, let them do them, right? If you want someone, or if you know someone in your department that seeks to climb the corporate ladder, don't tell them how to do that, right? The goal actually of what I'm looking to do with this certificate is to dismantle that corporate ladder, to level the playing field for everybody in the game, right? Because the corporate ladder, it's not very equitable. There are certain rungs and distances in some of the rungs on the ladder that makes climbing that ladder ineffective, and especially for people of color, right? So we want to dismantle the corporate ladder professionalism ideology, and thinking that you have to talk, look, dress, behave a certain way in order to excel. That's not necessarily true. And if it is true, it is because we are perpetuating racist and systemic ideologies, point blank, bottom line. So again, we're going to do this on a CIA model or framework. We want to challenge policies and procedures that perpetuate the systemic racial structures. We want to influence people into thinking differently. And then we want to have some actionable outcomes, right? Often we challenge people, and when we challenge people, people don't like being challenged, so they push back and they resist. However, because tension brings forth transformation, some people's ideologies have to be challenged. So let's challenge policies, processes, and procedures, but not people necessarily. So wrapping that up, let's shift into the Utah Reintegration Program. This is a program, or project rather, that was probably about a year in running. It was housed out of the Chief Diversity Office, where we actually have staff that has gone into the prison, Draper and whatnot, to teach folks that are currently incarcerated, or that had been incarcerated. So there's a prison program, prison education program that was taking place. We started thinking and wondering, like, what happens to inmates that are formerly incarcerated and they come out? What support do they have, especially, if they were students of Salt Lake Community College? So with the Utah Reintegration Program, we decided to have this meeting bi-weekly, twice a month, on the first and the third Thursday of each month. The first Thursday is for family, close friends, and prisoners only, and we specify that and really stick to that, because we have people that are still kind of on, the defense about interacting with law enforcement, and justly so, right? So we want the first meeting of the month to be a meeting where those that are formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated can get the support and love that they need from, as you heard Ariana say earlier in one of the SPARK talks, through prison letter writing, right? We also have a meeting on the third Thursday of the month for the staff, volunteers, and administrative individuals of the programs and regarding policy. And what we do is we collaborate with individuals in the community to talk about the resources that they have available that excuse me, can help us help those we are trying to reintegrate back into the community. As you know, anytime you invest into an individual, that individual will turn around and make an investment into their community, right? So if they have the resources and the tools that they need when coming out, or even while they're in prison, coming out, then they have a better chance of succeeding and not recidivizing. So we have a very strong URP connection and project going on. We meet consistently. We invite guest speakers in. We allow others to co-facilitate. We are keeping up with members in the community that have an active hand in policy or legislation. They bring information back to us informing what laws are on the book or what things that they're looking to change that will help those that are formerly incarcerated come out and be productive members of society. If anyone is interested in joining the Utah Reintegration Project, send us your contact information and we'll make sure we get you the information, or you can take a picture of it and we'll need to send you the Zoom link, but it is an open meeting that we have and we would love the support. We actually have a few students that are actually, we get them re-registered back into Salt Lake Community College, where they can, they may start their degree or certificate while incarcerated, but the goal for us is to make sure that they complete, and that adds to the completion rate for the college overall. So we're doing some great things in the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Hub at Salt Lake Community College, and we just definitely would encourage everyone to join in. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gina.
Sure.
We have just probably another 5 to 7 minutes. I think we can go over a little bit, but our final highlight is Dr. Nancy Berkman, who is a professor in biology and is also the chair of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion faculty subcommittee that's part of Senate. It was formerly the equity-minded practitioners, and we are joining forces with that committee. So Dr. Berkman is also a part of the leadership team at the Jedi 4ST Hub. So Nancy's going to talk about actually a little case study that her dean has her working on, and she's going to talk hopefully a little bit about hip hop pedagogy and what that means.
I'm going to do my best. I don't know if I can share screen here, and if I can't, that's not a crisis. But let's see. Hey, it appears to have worked. Okay, I'll try and keep to 5 minutes. Hi, my name's Nancy Berkman. I'm faculty in the biology department. And I am chair of the Faculty Senate Committee, but actually I want to talk about some work I'm doing in science, math, and engineering in my school. I'm leading a team, a design team of faculty and an academic advisor from science, math, and engineering. And we're going to design a STEM EDI fellowship program. So we're going to design it this spring, and it will launch our first year of this program during the next academic year in 2021. So a bit of history about this project. Along with 4 other faculty members in SME, I'm currently in another fellowship called UpSTEM, which stands for Utah Pathways to STEM. And it includes faculty from both the U and from SLIC. And the goal of that particular fellowship is to increase transfer rates among what are called underrepresented groups in STEM. And so over the summer, the Dean of Science, Math, and Engineering, Craig Caldwell, he approached the UpSTEM fellows, myself and 4 other faculty members, and he expressed his really deep concern regarding these, gross inequities and lack of inclusivity in SME and beyond. And he felt, as many of us do, that this kind of typical professional development workshops and similar initiatives really aren't enough. We can't continue doing the same thing and expect different results. So along with the other UpSTEM fellows, we developed a proposal to create a fellowship program here at SLIC. And Dean Caldwell allocated part of a grant from the Howard Hughes Medical Institute of the Inclusive Excellence Initiative. So we could create something really radical and transformative. And we expanded the design team to include, there's now 11 of us. And I'm sorry I didn't write all your names down, but you all know who you are and I love you. So what we're gonna do, just back up a little bit. As UpSTEM fellows a year ago, we did not initially engage in the typical activities of a professional and development faculty development program, instead of like diving into like specific instructional practices, such as like syllabus statements and instructional delivery techniques, which are very important. But what we did was we started to take a hard look at oppression in our society and the history of systemic discrimination in this country and how that plays out here at SLIC and at the U as well. I mean, it was fascinating and eye-opening for a bunch of like scientists, mathematicians, and engineers to instead engage in critical cultural studies. I mean, it was pretty radical, and I enjoyed it, and I wanted to continue it. And at some point during the UpSTEM Fellowship, towards the end, a few months ago, I suggested, hey, we should study hip hop. And that idea was met with crickets. Like everyone's like, what? Why would we do that? And at the time, I'll admit, I couldn't articulate why that would be so important. But I think through my participation with Jedi 4ST, through my interactions with people like, well, and reading Clifton Sanders' work and engaging with people like Anthony and his background in hip hop studies and Dr. K, like your just wide ranging understanding of how much you can get from studying social justice movements and studying things that don't typically think of as being the privileged way of thinking and how important those are. Because these movements, they intentionally create this kind of conflict and tension. And that's how we open our eyes. I mean, I think all of the faculty in UpSTEM began to open our eyes, and we want to do that more here at SLIC, is say, let's study something that we wouldn't typically think of as being critical and important, and realize this is how transformation happens. This is how we open our eyes to lived experiences that we don't have because of our privileged position and because of a history of systemic discrimination. So the goal of this project is to create something that transforms our fellow faculty members into equity, diversity-minded practitioners who appreciate diversity, welcome all students regardless of their backgrounds and identities, and strive to develop and implement equitable and inclusive instructional practices. However, so how will we do this? Well, one of those is examine these social justice movements like hip hop pedagogy, lowrider studies. And we want to intentionally make ourselves uncomfortable. If any of you were listening, I hope, to the MLK panel last week and you felt uncomfortable, good, you should. And we need space to unpack that. And we're gonna, Jedi 4ST is gonna make that space to unpack that. And those are the kind of things I wanna do intently, very intentionally and very intensive during this SME fellowship. I want to engage in community projects such as URP. Gina has been so welcoming and fantastic, and I've learned a lot just participating in URP. Well, I want to bring people in that would normally never think, hey, I should go look at prison reintegration. This is a way for me to expand and open my eyes and better understand the lived experiences of everybody who arrives here at SLIC. And so we also want to talk about the power of story. We've already heard a lot of that today, and we want to continue that, kind of initiate this ethnographic project in collaboration with Jedi 4ST. And we're already starting to collect lived experiences of, say, faculty who have been marginalized and continue to be marginalized here, staff as well, and eventually students. And our goal in these narratives is just open the eyes of those of us that are privileged by this system of structural inequity and inspire us then to dismantle that systemic discrimination in every way we can as faculty, staff, administrators. And furthermore, we seek to demonstrate, we want to demonstrate that science can be used as a tool of justice. As part of the UpSTEM Fellowship, we listened to this great podcast series, which I recommend to everybody. It's called Seeing White. It's sponsored by John Buen at the Center of Documentary Studies at Duke University, along with Chenjare Kumaniki of Journalism and Media Studies at Rutgers University. And during one of these episodes of the Seeing White podcast, Chenjare Kumaniki said, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, I want him to directly quote this for me, I'm gonna contact him, but he basically said, what if instead of being about weapons and wealth, science was about justice? How can we reframe science so it's no longer this oppressive and just really roots of discrimination in science? How can we make it about justice? And so I want to build that into the fellowship as well, examples of science as justice. And I can give you a couple specific examples that I think we can all relate to. Flint water crisis. How can we use science, and we can, and some people did, to demonstrate just horrific atrocities towards certain marginalized people. Science can be used as a tool of justice, and we want our faculty to then convey that to our students as well. And then, of course, another great example right now is the novel coronavirus, this global pandemic. It is discriminating, and it is inequitably impacting certain groups of people. So science can demonstrate that. Science can demonstrate a lot of things, a lot of injustices, and then right those justices. So instead of just being an EDI fellowship, I want this to be a STEM JEDI and include justice as well. So that's a quick overview of a project that is just in its incipient stages. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about that.
Thank you, Nancy. And just in wrapping up, we want to do a hip hop pedagogy. If, as you're exiting the room, could you drop in the chat box one word that energized you today from this session or from the morning session? One word that energized you. And with that, I want to thank each and every one of the presenters, Clifton, Anthony, Gina, and Nancy for joining us today. And I want to thank each and every one of the participants who were in attendance here, and just thank everybody who's centering justice and thinking a lot deeper about equity, diversity, and inclusion by centering justice. We're one of the few community colleges and universities in higher ed that is centering justice in EDI work. And so we're really enthused by that and enthused that there were people here today to listen to us. We're humbled, we're thankful. Please reach out to any one of our speakers today to get involved in our projects, to be put on our distribution lists, and visit us at the South City campus where we have the JEDI Hub that has also the Clifton G. Sanders Racial Justice and Black Liberation Library. We're gonna connect there all semester and into the next year and years ahead as we continue to hold space and fill space with deep conversation about arts, about healing, and about justice. Thank you so much. And we're going to remain open so we can capture all of your data words that you're putting here. Thank you so much. We love you all.
Curious, if I have not logged off, does that mean I'm part of the after party?
Yes, so I'm not logged off. Will, do we have to log off, or is this room just going to naturally?
Yeah, I do need to end this and end the whole
Okay.
thing because I need to start the next webinar. So sorry, guys. I'd love the opportunity to keep talking, but I have to jump over to our College Planning Council. So hopefully we see you there in just a minute.
Can you
Appreciate
give us a quick question to capture these chats?
I'm going to do it right before I end the meeting.
You're the greatest. Thank you.
All right. See you over in the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Will.